This is Taking Flight, where bold ideas soar, brands reach new heights, and real conversations take center stage. I'm Anna Crowe, and I'll be your guide as we sit down with brand leaders and partners to explore the ever-evolving world of PR, marketing, and business. Together, we'll uncover what it takes to stand out, scale up, and stay ahead. Ready to fly? Let's go. Tracy, I am so excited to be sitting down with you here today.
I'm excited too. This is pretty cool.
Yay.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. As you know, this is our initiative for our 10-year anniversary of Crowe PR.
Congrats. Very cool.
Thank you. And we have worked together for 7 years, which is pretty unbelievable. And that's why we're here to talk about all the things we've learned. And before we get started, though, tell us about your role at STM Goods. How did you become the Chief Brand Officer?
Pure luck, absolute luck.
As most things.
No, STM, when I first joined STM, I was hired as a CMO. So brought on to do quite a number of changes in the marketing, which we did. We had a lot of success rebranding, which was a big endeavor. That's always takes a lot of effort, takes a lot to communicate it out to the public, a lot of changes you have to make. So we did that fairly successfully. Also changed a lot of our marketing plan, changed a lot of the way we go to market with product. I led on marketing for maybe 3 years, I think is about what it was. Around that time, we lost our VP of product. We went into a hiring phase where we tried to find someone. We got somebody temporarily, that didn't work out so well. And it started becoming where it was a bit of a product by committee because we didn't have anybody in place. One of the challenges we had in hiring, and this is oftentimes what a lot of companies have these same sort of struggles, is trying to get multiple skill sets into a single person, which can be a little bit challenging. We're looking for somebody that had strategy and execution all in one. And so that was a bit of a struggle to find somebody that could do that and fit in the chemistry of the culture of the company that we had. As we're going through this, I've done a lot of different things in my career, and God blessed me with a lot of talents that I've been able to leverage to my own benefit and the benefit of others. Some of those allow me to think beyond marketing. In fact, marketing is just kind of the best way that I'm able to channel a lot of that. So fortunately, I had some visibility on what our product strategy should be. I mean, marketing in terms of like messaging and branding is not that far off as far as how you design strategy for product. So even though they're obviously very different media that you work with, it's very similar. You learn your customer, what do they need, what are the opportunities, how can you scale that?
Right.
So I had for several years looked at this and had ideas on things, but left it to the product team. Well, now that this was a wide open scenario, I came to the owners of the company and said, I know what we need to do, and I know I can do this. There was a little caveat in that I said, I need a product execution arm. So we need to hire somebody that can be basically a director of product, but I can lead us on our strategy. And I had fortunately had their trust over those years, and they believed in me and they said, let's do it. And that's the way it's been ever since. So now I'm over product and marketing.
Fantastic. And how long ago was that?
That was about 5 years ago, I think is what it was now.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. So talk a little bit about STM Goods. Company founded far away from where we sit today in Southern California, all the way in Australia, and eventually made its way to the US.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Long ago in an island far, far away, two of our founders brought the company together. They saw an opportunity in laptop bags and a way to innovate laptop bags, and that's the way we started. So we were originally STM bags, and it was only at the time of my hiring that we changed it from STM bags to STM Goods because we do far more than just bags anymore. But that's how we started. We were an Australian brand. We had great success in Australia. In fact, today we're largely a house brand in Australia. So when you're in Australia, people know STM. In America, not so much. We've only been here for, I don't know, it's been 15 years officially, somewhere around in there. So when I joined the company, here in the US, we were largely a product, not so much a brand.
Brand name, right.
So there are people that owned our product, especially our Dux cases for iPad. We've sold millions of those. for those who are watching or listening, you probably have one and you may not even know it. They're widespread, but people didn't know STM as a brand. So that's a bit of the challenge that they faced coming over. But we were quite successful at getting some good anchor points within retail. Worked with Apple early on, a number of other bigger retailers, and that's really what gave us the footing in the Americas. And since then, we've grown literally worldwide. There are very few countries where we do not have retail representation. So it's very cool being a part of that process and also being a recipient of the legacy that our founders created.
Absolutely. And I know there's the B2B and the B2C side of the business, right? And so your strategy coming into the US had to speak to both of those customers. Can you chat about that for a little bit?
Yeah, like for when you're in consumer electronics especially, there is, depending on what your products are, but definitely for our products, we are very well poised to be a benefit to a corporate environment, but also for a consumer environment. So our products fit that nicely, and those markets are both, they both have their strengths and their weaknesses. They have their challenges and they have their opportunities, but there's a lot of success to be had in either or both of those channels. So we play in both of those channels. What that does is it opens up obviously a lot more revenue potential for a company when you can do that, but it also has a lot more demand. Selling consumer is not the same thing as selling B2B.
Right.
It really is not. They are very much two different beasts.
Even just trade shows alone,
yeah,
you're talking to completely different customers.
Yes, that's and your sale is different. Your messaging is different. The way that you create your benefit points is very different. And even though you're selling to an individual on the other end, that individual has very different incentives on what they're doing relative to somebody who's buying for themselves.
Right.
So it's basically you have to create two different messaging strategies, two different sales strategies. You a lot of times have to have two different sales organizations to do this. So it certainly creates a lot of complexity that you have to deal with. So from both marketing and product and from sales, you can't go into that without understanding that kind of nuance. You really have to come in understanding it's not a matter of taking something that was good in consumer and moving it into B2B.
Right.
It's not that easy. You have to restructure basically an entirely different strategy.
Yeah, and there are many brands out there that have completely different organizations set up for those customers, to your point, from the sales arm, right?
Yep.
So let's talk about those marketing tactics. When we started working together, we were really focused on building that brand awareness and getting the name out through earned media, through product reviews, right? Through journalists talking about it and doing the best gadgets and back to school and all of those. And as we've worked together over the years, and as marketing tactics have evolved, we started paying attention to influencer marketing and how do we leverage other influential people, not just journalists, but people who have influence through social media to tell the brand story, to showcase the products, right? And then, of course, social media has been a big part of that. So can you tell us a little bit about that evolution from your vantage point?
Yeah, we're not unique to a lot of what other companies have experienced in that our marketing and the media that we use in the marketing is really following the path of progression and regression in certain media. So, when I first started long ago in the dinosaur ages, I was still dealing with mass media, TV and radio and print, those kind of things. And nowadays you can still make those effective within certain capacities. Certain brands make that work, but ours would never work with those kind of media. So we, of course, like many others, have used earned media, the PR angle, to our advantage quite well for quite some time. We've watched over the years, and I've seen it in my career, where there was a time where you could land PR within publications, and there was this certain authority that came with it to where people would see those articles or those reports, and they would buy based on that because there was this implicit trust between us and media.
10 times more powerful than an advertisement in that capacity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, consumers have become a little bit more savvy with 24-hour cable news and the way that a lot of news has become commercialized. We see kind of how the sausage is made, and so the trust is a little bit eroded. So we understand there's like business behind it, and a lot of times these are paid opportunities. And so consumers have become a little jaded on that. So some of that media has lost a little bit of its punch that it used to have. So where did the world go? The world went into social media. And so social media for a long time carried that. But then social media got a little stale, and influencers came to arise, and they became a thing. And still influencers are a big part of what we try to do. But influencers, as I've observed it as an industry, are also falling a little bit victim to that same kind of cynicism from consumers and from followers, where they know, hey, my favorite influencer that's pitching this product to me right now, they may or may not be truly authentic about this. This may be a paid gig, and they're just like, this is basically a commercial that I'm getting, but they're really being sincere about it. There's a certain amount of that that's coming across the board, as I've observed. And so media is changing yet again. And a lot of what I've seen happening is the TikTok shop phenomenon that's happening right now. That's really where a lot of quick product movement online is happening, is the way that TikTok has arranged their algorithm and the way that they're kind of rewarding influencers on TikTok to do this. So even though it's still a social media and they are influencers of a sort, the tone and the format of which they do it has become very different. It has far less to do with a locked-in audience that they generally have, and more playing to that algorithm-driven audience and using this fresh like hooks and things to do it. So it's always evolving. It's always evolving.
And there's this interesting juxtaposition around the algorithm and AI elements and the authenticity of the brand. Because to your point, we have a lot of consumers going back to, I want to make sure I trust this brand. I want to make sure it's real. I want to make sure I'm not being sold to, right? So there's also this movement to being real and not having everything polished and not having everything dialed in, because we do know that with many marketing dollars, you can make anything look really shiny, right? So it's a really interesting dynamic, I think, in the space. And how do you speak to those audiences, right, in the right way, keeping the brand voice and tone true to itself and never confusing or having conflicting messages, but then also doing that to your end users and consumers and the education space and the other B2B spaces, corporate, right? So you have to have a team of people and to always have innovation on the forefront. How do we stay ahead of the game? How do we stay creative, right? So tell us a little bit about the innovation. I know you've had some products that you've designed personally and with their team, but how does STM really stand out when it comes to innovation?
It's a good question, because innovation, a lot of times people throw around innovation as a buzzword that they think they embrace, and really they don't. And you can quickly know whether you embrace innovation. Just simply, if you have meetings where you're proposing something different, you can watch whether there is defense of the old guard or whether there is embrace of the new. And most people that I've worked with across my career, because I've driven to innovation much of my career. I started in graphic design, I went into advertising, and now I'm more in like brand media across, or brand management across, inside an industry. When I push the limits, I quickly know just how far somebody is really tooled for innovation, because more often than not, human nature kicks in, and most of us are this way, is we are resistant to change.
Right.
Generally, we say we're willing to change, but when you start saying, hey, I'm going to start changing the color of the drapes around here, everybody gets a little jittery. So innovation is something you have to be really deliberate and committed to. Even when you feel like you're innovation minded, you have to really say, this is our path, this is what we're committing to, we're going for it. So that's number one, is that you make that decision to be innovative.
I love that.
Number two is you have to have people in place that are innovation minded. So it's not just a matter about being willing. You have to have kind of a brain that's that way. And not everybody's brain does that, and that's okay. Some people are built for like management, to stay within a certain path, and that's a strength that you absolutely need for a part of your business as well.
Systems, processes, operations, all very important.
You don't want your accountants and your IT people constantly innovating, because you'd be a mess.
Forget that system. We have something new.
You don't want that.
Right.
But from marketing, from product strategy, and from sales, a lot of times you have to innovate in order to stay fresh and to pierce the noise that the rest of the market has innovated too. So oftentimes innovation brings up the rest of the industry, and then that innovation is now table stakes, and nobody hears your once was innovation is just kind of common thing. So you have to stay on it. You have to be regular about it. One of the ways that we do that is that we have semi-frequent executive meetings, where that executive meeting is largely about measuring the distance of our innovation and what the effect is. So we build it into our scheduling of planning, that innovation we go away, rest of business has to hold while we spend a couple of days really kind of digging into whether we're doing it right. So that's a big part of it. The other part is like in innovation is you have to do a lot of testing. You throw stuff out, watch what it does, measure. Sometimes you retreat, sometimes you progress with it, but you have to be willing to take those risks. I'm fortunate because I work in an organization where we embrace that. And so I create something and it completely bombs in the market. It's happened. That always is a terrible experience, but it happens to anybody that's truly being innovative. The great thing is that the owners of this company, they don't punish that. They say, all right, well, we tried. A little bit of money down the drain, but what we just learned was XYZ doesn't work. Maybe ABC is the thing next time. And we apply that. And that's a cool place to be. If you're an innovator in a non-innovative space, bad match. Bad match. So for somebody like me who has always kind of been just like driven that way, I don't even like really claim responsibility for it. It's just whatever the circuitry is that makes me do that. That's where my brain goes. And so I'm particularly good at that. What I'm not particularly good at is to be in a place that doesn't innovate. So when you get the right kind of people together with that kind of energy and then you put the structure around it, innovation can happen quite efficiently. Our slogan is smarter than most, and that's really about innovation. So it's something that we do well and most of the time, and it's something we'll continue to do well.
And I remember when that rebranding took place, that was an exciting time for the business.
That was fun.
To have that moment and say, okay, this is the direction. And it all makes sense. The storytelling is there. And that's a big part of it too. How do we deliver the story? How does the product, the brand match what we're trying to communicate, right? Because if you design products that did not live up to that brand expectation, you probably have a lot less customers. Which brings me to the product side. So you have a lot of products you've launched over the years, many innovative products, many very day-to-day use that you've maybe innovated slightly year over year. Talk about the Ducks backpack. That was one of the products that you worked on several years ago. Tell us about the evolution of that and where it started, where it is today, and just what's your vision for the future.
Yeah, when we first started creating bags long, long ago, that was the idea, is that we were kind of redefining what a bag could do. Over the years, we created a lot of different versions of what bags that carry laptops and tablets and other gear can do. We found that there was a little bit of a stale point, not only in our offering, but in the industry at large, where backpacks were becoming so commoditized that there wasn't a lot of really interest or innovation in it. So we put together a plan to rethink what a backpack could be. There's certain things about a backpack you can't change. One is that it fits on your back. So there's like shoulder straps, and there's the compartment that you have the stuff in, and there's certain things that you're locked in order to make it defined as a backpack. But there's a lot of stuff that has never been questioned, that we just tore everything down and then started building back up and saying, why is that a part of a backpack? Should that be a part? Why can't we do this? And that led to what the Ducks pack is. And in Australia, Ducks is slang for the smartest kid in the class. So if you're the smarty, you're the Ducks. I was never the Ducks growing up, but whatever. Our backpack really redefined. And so we borrowed technology from outdoor, from photography, from photo bags, from bags we've been doing for years. And we combined it into this fantastic bag that I was lead on design on this thing. So I love it because it's my baby. But I also love it because it solves a lot of the problems that I always hated about backpacks.
Right.
The disorganization, you got this massive black hole of who knows what's down in there and what they're doing together. And you can now organize it, segregate them, put them in places. When you put it there, you know exactly where it is, and you can go back right where it is without even looking into your bag. You can change it to whatever configuration you want. It has this fantastic iconic design to it, which was part of our objective. And it's super rugged. Like you can put your laptop in there, and you could go play football with it on your back, and you'd be totally fine with it. I don't know that I recommend that, but it would protect your laptop. So we accomplished everything that we set out to do. The market has responded really well. One of the things about it is it's got a lot of technology and innovation and some really high-end materials in it. So it sits a little higher in the price range relative to our market. So it takes the right kind of customer to buy that bag, because a lot of people want to buy a $100 bag. It's a $200 bag. So maybe that's not in your price range. But for those that are looking for something like that, we get all the time, oh my gosh, I love your Ducks pack. Oh my gosh, it's the most amazing thing. And this year when we brought out these new colorways, we brought out some new fun colorways. They were just absolutely a smash when customers saw it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Loved it. The design, the colors, it's amazing.
Yeah. So we're excited about that. It's been good. It's been in the market for a couple of years, and I think it's got many years ahead of it, because it really does. When people buy that Ducks pack, they experience something they've never experienced before. And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely. So for those who are not as familiar with STM goods, are not smarter than most yet, what are some of the favorite places where people can go and buy the products?
It depends on the product, but we're in most big box at times. Like we're in Targets, and we're in Best Buys, and we're in Apple stores, and we're definitely online at stmgoods.com, right. Amazon. Like we're around. A lot of times it's seasonal placement, or it's just a specific case here or a bag there. But you can find us in a lot of different places.
Yeah. What's next? What's on your vision board for the brand? Where are you taking it?
It's a number of places. Some I won't talk about, but because there might be competitors listening.
Not yet.
We don't give those guys any kind of secrets. But it's really about finding technologies that change things. That's always part of the vision, is can technology change what we're doing? Two is it's a little bit of a return to the basics of what people really want out of things. We live in such a world that is so driven by almost like an illusion that's created anymore. I mean, AI is changing everything we can think of anymore, and will absolutely upend all of marketing. I mean, in a couple of years, you and I might just be out of a job because robots are doing it. But AI...
I'd like to see robots sitting here and recording this interview.
That's right. That's right. Come at it, robots. Let's go. As long as they're not Terminators. Let's keep that away. But I think there's a certain part of like just the human touch of things that happens in products that we sometimes take for granted. But because we mass produce so many things, that it becomes a little bit of a gray experience. So we're looking to create things that reignite that little moment of curious delight in our customers, where you interact with a product and all of a sudden you have these moments where your breath comes up, your heart rate increases, your pupils dilate. You may not even realize it, but suddenly you're having like endorphins hitting, all from a product that you just picked up off a shelf. That's pretty cool. That's part of the vision of what we're looking for. Cool. So where the rest of the world is going to commodity because it's cheaper, more economical, easier to manufacture, something like that, we are continually looking at how do we make that person who picks it up have a moment that improves their day, their processes. Their lives may be a little bit overly strident, but maybe it improves their lives. That would be pretty awesome too.
Absolutely. No, I mean, you're already making a positive impact. It's just different ways, right? So AI, future, tell us a little bit about the setup I saw at CES earlier this year. So we had a beautiful display with some ducklings all around, and we talked a little bit about that. Any insights you could share about this?
Yeah. AI is a lot of fun in a lot of ways, and it's really making marketing faster, even more compelling in a lot of ways. But it certainly makes it more efficient if you know how to use it right. So one of the things that we've done with AI is that it's helping us to create our visuals in more affordable, faster. It allows us to do things that would have been difficult to direct through a person before, which is really interesting.
And a lot more time consuming.
A lot more time consuming, a lot more cost consuming. So it was kind of cool. We have this idea of Dux is our kind of our lead product brand within the company. Not everybody knows how to pronounce Dux. It's D-U-X. Some people call it Dukes or whatever, but it's Dux. And so we thought playing off of ducks, like rubber ducks, would be a lot of fun. Everybody grew up with rubber ducks.
Who doesn't like a rubber duck?
They're adorable.
Cute.
So, but could we bring that into an adult professional setting and have it be appropriate where it didn't feel juvenile or something like that? Well, before this, it was difficult to execute. Well, now you have generative AI that can take verbal prompts or written prompts and can create visuals out of it. So that's what we did. And so our booth was wrapped in these, on the outside, it's wrapped with these really fun, like cartoon sequences of this team of ducks, the scientist, the mastermind, the scrappy fighter, fighting against cracks and dents, their evil nemesis. And so it was a lot of fun. People really got excited about them, thought they were the coolest thing in the world. We had some people ask, who was your illustrator? They're amazing. And It was, I couldn't tell him.
It's a secret.
Yeah.
I can't disclose.
It's a software. That was who our illustrator was. But we also created some of these parody movie posters with rubber ducks replacing some of our favorite characters. I mean, it starts making execution really at the level of your imagination, which is super cool.
Yeah, and it adds a little bit more personality to the brand, right? It humanizes the brand. Things like that are just make it a little bit more exciting, and that customer journey is a little bit more interesting and exciting. So that was really fun to see.
Yeah, in a world of consumer electronics where everything is, you know, megabytes and performance or whatever, having these fun yellow characters coming into it is a refreshing change. And many of us are kind of, we're kind of nostalgic about our cartoons anyway. So it kind of fits. And there's, you know, there are a lot of precedents of brands who brought some kind of mascot. And a lot of times it's animal mascots into their brand, and their marketing increases dramatically. And so we're following that strategy. And so far, that was our first foray into offering our little duckies around. But the public absolutely loved them. So I think we're onto something.
Love that. Well, we have the same strategy with our Crowe.
Yep.
We just remove the E, and we've got a lot of little birds, and bird puns makes it fun and humanizes the brand a little bit.
It's one of my favorite things is you refer to your office and your team as the nest.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you. So is there anything else you want to share? Anything I didn't ask you that you think is relevant for our viewers out there?
Well, I do think, like for anybody that's running a business, especially anybody that's running marketing, with the technology that's coming along, AI, we hear all kinds of horror stories and we hear all kinds of like dream accounts of what AI will be. But right now there's a massive race for AGI, which is basically kind of an autonomous intelligence that can go after multiple tasks, that can learn along the way, that can formulate its own pathways to success. And they're not far from that. And I think when AGI comes into the world at scale, imagine a time where software will send ads out, multiple ads to multiple audiences on multiple platforms with multiple messaging, and in instance, we'll be checking different kinds of engagement and conversion and behavioral indicators across on the other side, and instantly adapting and optimizing within milliseconds to where they can get optimized campaigns rolling and squeezing everything they can out of them every second of every day, all automatically. Marketing is going to change very dramatically. Now, the way I see it happening is that for a time, a lot of us marketers may be on the directing front of that, but those of us who are in the management side of things, we're going to be left behind. We truly will be the dinosaurs. And the human parts of what we do and how we interact is going to become very important, because I also think when that happens, and I guarantee you that's going to happen and it won't be far out, those of us on the consumer side of things, knowing that robots are firing infinite amounts of new creative and they're optimizing against us and things like that, a lot of us are going to retreat to the old ways of doing things. Farmers markets, handshakes, grassroots. And so I think marketing is going to morph into this super tech thing for a time. And then it's going to fall right back into a very old-fashioned way of marketing. I may be way off base saying that. I don't think I am. And so that's kind of what I'm prepping for. And some of the skills of marketing are, of course, audience optimization, media optimization, looking at all the numbers, thinking about technology. But there's a good part of marketing that is just human mind to human mind. And that connection of how you connect together is the essence of all of it. Tools aside, that's the essence of it. And so for any kind of marketer, knowing how to connect to another person is always going to be the most important skill set you can have.
I was recently in Denver, and I went to Meow Wolf, which is a little experiential, not a museum, but it's this really cool experiential venue. And they talked quite a bit about the rise of experiential again. And again, it goes back to that juxtaposition between digital technology and the human element, and how we're currently experiencing both. But I love your thinking around how it may shift and adapt. And at the end of the day, we are humans as well. So, well, Tracy, thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being an incredible partner over the years. And we are looking forward to the next decade with STM Goods and Crowe PR.
I love that. I hope that's exactly what happens.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.